The first time Hannah's whisper brushed against Michael's ear, his hand stopped moving, and the world seemed to fall silent around them. The soft hum of the heater in his small Asheville, North Carolina home faded into nothing, and even the ticking clock on the kitchen wall felt distant. He had only meant to help, to ease the tension knotted across her shoulders after another exhausting shift at the hospital. He never expected a single fragile confession to freeze him in place and force him to confront feelings he had buried for years. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet strength it takes to open your heart again, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach more hearts. Michael had been a single father for 4 years. After his wife passed away unexpectedly, he had poured every ounce of himself into raising his 7-year-old daughter, Sophie. He worked long hours as a physical therapist, came home to help with homework, cooked simple dinners, and read bedtime stories even when exhaustion tugged at his eyes. His life had narrowed into a straight, disciplined line: work, home, fatherhood. There was no room for romance, no space for vulnerability. At least, that was what he told himself. Ryan, his best friend since college, had been his lifeline through the darkest months of grief. Ryan's sister, Hannah, had always been around in the background, a quiet presence at barbecues and holiday dinners. She had kind eyes and a calm voice, the kind of woman who listened more than she spoke. After Ryan moved overseas for a job opportunity, Hannah had stayed behind in Asheville to continue her work as a nurse. Over time, she began checking in on Michael and Sophie more often, dropping off homemade soup, offering to babysit when Michael had late appointments. Michael appreciated her kindness but kept a careful distance. He feared the fragile ground of friendship and loyalty. Hannah was his best friend's sister. She was part of a world he didn't want to complicate. More than that, he was terrified of letting anyone close enough to see how broken he still felt inside. The night everything changed had begun like any other. Sophie was at a sleepover, and the house felt unusually quiet. Hannah had stopped by after her shift, shoulders slumped, dark circles beneath her eyes. She mentioned a persistent ache in her upper back, the kind that came from lifting patients and carrying more emotional weight than anyone should. Michael, trained in therapy and rehabilitation, offered to help. It felt natural, harmless even. He had helped dozens of patients in similar ways. They sat in the softly lit living room. Outside, a thin layer of snow dusted the streets, turning the neighborhood into a silent painting. Michael worked carefully, professionally, focusing on the tight muscles along her shoulders. He felt the tension there, not just physical, but something deeper, something unspoken. Hannah had always seemed strong, almost unshakable, yet tonight there was a heaviness about her. As his hands eased the stiffness from her back, her breathing slowed. For a few peaceful minutes, it felt like they were simply two tired adults finding relief in a hard world. Then she leaned her head slightly to the side and, in a voice barely louder than the falling snow outside, admitted that she was tired of being strong for everyone else. She confessed that sometimes she felt invisible, that she carried her own loneliness in silence because she did not want to burden anyone. Her words were not dramatic. They were soft, almost fragile, but they struck Michael like thunder. He froze because he recognized the same loneliness in himself. He had built walls so high around his heart that even he could no longer see over them. Hearing Hannah speak so honestly felt like someone had quietly turned on a light in a room he had kept locked for years. He withdrew his hand slowly, unsure of what to do with the sudden storm inside him. The professional boundary he had relied on dissolved into something deeply personal. He realized that helping her was no longer about easing a sore muscle. It was about standing at the edge of vulnerability, about deciding whether to step forward or retreat. For weeks after that night, Michael struggled. He avoided unnecessary contact, burying himself in work and fatherhood once again. But he could not erase the memory of her whisper, or the way his heart had responded. He began noticing small details he had previously ignored, the way Hannah laughed when Sophie told silly jokes, the quiet patience in her eyes, the way she never asked for anything in return for her kindness. At the same time, guilt gnawed at him. He worried about Ryan, about crossing invisible lines. He feared disappointing his best friend, even though there had never been any promises or expectations. More than anything, he feared failing Sophie. What if opening his heart again meant risking another loss? What if loving someone new meant exposing his daughter to more pain? One afternoon, Sophie asked him why Aunt Hannah had not visited lately. The simple question pierced him. Sophie adored her. Children, he realized, often see what adults try to hide. Sophie did not view Hannah as a complication. She saw her as warmth, as safety. That night, Michael sat alone at the kitchen table, staring at an old photograph of his late wife. He spoke softly into the quiet house, admitting his fear. He acknowledged that loving again felt like betrayal, even though deep down he knew it wasn't. Grief had become a strange comfort zone. Moving forward felt like stepping into unknown territory without a map. The turning point came unexpectedly. Hannah showed up one evening with a strained smile and red-rimmed eyes. A difficult case at the hospital had shaken her deeply. This time, it was Michael who saw the cracks in her strength. Instead of retreating, he invited her to sit, offered her tea, and listened. Truly listened. He did not try to fix anything. He simply let her speak. In that quiet exchange, something shifted. Michael realized that love was not about grand gestures or dramatic declarations. It was about presence. It was about showing up when someone's shoulders sag under invisible weight. It was about allowing yourself to be seen, even when you feel imperfect. He finally admitted to himself that the whisper that froze him had not been a warning. It had been an invitation. Weeks later, on a clear spring afternoon, Michael took Sophie to the park. Hannah joined them, laughing as Sophie raced across the grass. Watching them together, Michael felt something unfamiliar but beautiful: hope. Not the loud, overwhelming kind, but a steady warmth that settled into his chest. He asked Hannah to walk with him along the path lined with blooming dogwood trees. There were no dramatic speeches, no perfectly rehearsed words. He simply told her that her honesty had changed him, that he did not want to live behind walls anymore. He acknowledged his fears and his loyalty to Ryan, trusting that honesty would guide them through. Hannah's eyes filled with quiet tears, not of sadness but of relief. She had never expected perfection. She had only hoped for truth. From that day forward, they moved carefully but intentionally. They spoke openly with Ryan, who surprised them both with understanding and support. They took things slowly, mindful of Sophie's heart and their own. The journey was not without challenges, but it was built on respect and patience. Michael discovered that love after loss feels different. It carries echoes of the past, but it also holds room for new laughter, new memories. He learned that helping someone ease their physical pain had been simple compared to the courage required to share emotional burdens. The whisper that once froze him became a reminder that vulnerability is not weakness. It is the doorway to connection. If this story has touched your heart, if it reminded you that even the strongest people need someone to lean on, please take a moment to like, share, and comment below. Your engagement helps keep these meaningful stories alive. Special request: comment the word hope if you believe everyone deserves a second chance at love. In the end, Michael understood that life does not pause for our fears. It moves forward, gently urging us to do the same. By choosing to listen instead of retreat, by allowing himself to feel instead of hiding behind duty, he found something he never thought he would have again. He found not just love, but partnership. Not just comfort, but courage. And in the quiet evenings that followed, as Sophie's laughter filled their home and Hannah's presence brought warmth to every corner, Michael finally realized that sometimes the softest whispers carry the power to change everything.